if you run into someone that's looking to buy, sell, or refinance, can I count on you to give them my name and number? And again, I say, can I count on you? Because I'm not putting her on the spot. There's no wrong. The only possible answer is yes, because it didn't require her to come up with Bobby's name and name off the top of the head. Mm-hmm. So like, I forget who built that original script. It's not my own, so I'm not trying to take credit for it. But I've always really liked that because it also fits my personality.
Welcome to Stop Whining About Real Estate. Join us as we chat, sip, banter, and wine with the best in the biz. Grab a glass of your favorite vino, sit back, relax, and let's wine together. Today's guest is someone who knows what it's like to stand at life's crossroads and help others find their way forward. Mary Owens is a clinical social worker, life transitions coach, speaker, and author with over 30 years of experience guiding people through the messy, overwhelming, and beautiful process of change. Whether you're navigating a divorce, midlife burnout, or just feeling stuck, Mary brings wisdom, compassion, and real tools to help you move forward from fear to action. Let's dive in.
All right. Afternoon, everybody. Emmanuel St. Tremaine. I am your host of Stop Whining About Real Estate. I've got your favorite cohort, Sarah Birnbaum, and we've got a special guest today. We're going to talk about a lot of really cool stuff, things that most people don't talk about. So this is the behind the curtains of psychology and human behavior. So we have my friend Mary Owens, who is a clinical social worker and has experience in all sorts of different things. So let's start first by welcome to the show, Mary.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I want to talk about some of the different things in general. There's a lot of psychology that goes into what I do in terms of sales, what Sarah does in terms of building and maintaining and forging relationships. And then there's a lot of psychology that real estate agents use in terms of dealing with buyers and sellers. There's a lot of emotions at play. And I want to kind of dive into some of that. To preface and to kind of share with Sarah, when I had seen Mary do a presentation, and she works with a lot of different individuals, and I'll give you a second here. You can give your background a little bit. And, I had told her, I said, well, it would be really, really cool if we could talk about some of this stuff that, I like to call the word manipulation and we both agreed that manipulation's not a bad thing.
I agree.
It just means that in our modern day society, it has a negative connotation because of how it's been implied, so to speak. So anyways, we're going to get into manipulation and all sorts of fun stuff.
We got to find a better word for it. I think that's really it.
I was going through a thesaurus saying, okay, there's got to be a better word. What's the definition and and I can't come up with one. Was influencer, but I think that's so overused.
It is and it's overused, I think, in not a good way. And it's also, it kind of cheapens what it is because of what we're used to now, and it kind of takes away the importance or the meaningfulness of it. One word that I think we've used on the show is massaging, but I think you've got to be careful how you use that one too. So
I massaged her.
Yeah, so I think you can't use that one either.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't think that there's anything wrong with manipulation if you're using it in a positive way, but I'm excited to dive in and get into it.
Yes. Let's start, Mary. Give us a little bit of your background and tell us a little bit about yourself and tell the audience where we're at.
Well, I'm a military brat, but I won't bore you with all of that. Just I say that because I grew up meeting lots of different people from lots of different areas, and it really created an interest in me as to what makes people tick, and hearing people's stories about all of their experiences. So I then chose to study psychology and went on to get a graduate degree in social work. And, I've worked for the Veterans Hospital, psych department, substance abuse, dual diagnosis. I've pretty much run the gamut of the types of clients that I've worked with. And now I run my own company where I specialize in working with people going through major life transitions, where I help them to manage the overwhelm and the emotions so that they can view what they're going through objectively and make decisions not based on emotion, but which are going to be in their best interest to move forward in their life. And you're shaking your head. I think we can
Sarah,
all.
would you say that's something I excel in?
Yes, actually it is. Unfortunately.
Making decisions without emotion.
He does. He's our leader. He's our CEO, and there's a lot of different people that come into his office. Different. What? Oh, you're laughing at me. There's this business, this industry can be tough, and there's all kinds of emotions that go on a day to day. And I will say that there's people that will come into his office with big emotions, and some are good, some are bad, some are really angry, and everything in between. And he is so even keel at kind of taking the emotion out of it, letting them have their moment, but then also kind of attacking the problem as a rational, okay, well, here we are, but we want to get to here. So how do we do that? And pulling the emotion out of it so that way they are able to see it more clearly. And I think that we all say that we want to do that, and we all think that we can do that, but I think some do it better than others. And you actually are very, very talented in that space, because I've never seen you get, I've never seen you lose your cool, and you're always able to get from that moment of everything's falling apart to, okay, we have a plan, we have a path, let's kind of move forward. And I think that's very admirable, if I should say.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't understand too is, it's important to have emotions, but emotions and thinking are two processes for a reason. And I always tell my clients, you never want to base a major decision on emotion, whether it's a negative or even a positive emotion. Sometimes people get so excited that they end up agreeing to doing something that the next morning they wake up and they think, oh my God, what did I just do? So feel the feelings, let it out, like it sounds like you do with your clients, but then it's like, okay, let's
give it some time.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is perfect, right? So we're going to have to do some pauses and timeouts, because as she says this, the first thing I'm saying is rule number one, one of the first things you want to do in sales is you're selling an emotion. You're selling to that person's emotion. If we made the majority of purchases that people make, even the large ones, right? Buying a home is not a mathematical decision. There are few and far people who will sit down and break the numbers down and really analyze whether it makes sense or not. So the buying a home is a really emotional decision. And in fact, you kind of want to play on people's emotions in order to do that, right? And this is where we were just discussing, previously about whether manipulating is something that, are we manipulating someone by tugging on their emotional need for security, for stability, for financial gain, right? Maybe you didn't grow up with any, because think about all the reasons why somebody wants to buy a house, right? And I say dig into the psychology. I don't have a background in psychology. I don't even think I've ever taken a psychology classes. It's more just I love to read and I love to listen to audiobooks, and I love the connection and the thought behind selling. And selling for me just means solving a problem, by the way. Doesn't mean it doesn't have to have an exchange of money. It doesn't have to be any of that.
But I think that that's where your selling and somebody else's selling could look different. Somebody else could be more of the manipulator in selling, where it doesn't really have to do anything with what their wants or needs or solving their problems is. It's just to get to the end goal, which is the paycheck.
Right.
Whereas you say, okay, selling to me is figuring out what they really want, where they're really kind of stressed or where they're really kind of having that loss, and let me figure out a way to get them to the end. So while it is, yes, manipulation and playing on their emotions, you're still using what is important to them to solve their problem. Yes, you'll end up getting paid, but they're also going to end up feeling like you looked out for them because you got to the root of what that was for them. Not just, you want to buy a house, great, it doesn't matter what it is. Land on this, let's go, because I've got, I want to get financial gain out of it.
And, it comes to me playing on people's emotions. I kind of view it differently, because playing kind of makes it look like it's a game.
But these are all the words that we're using.
Right.
To describe activities that if the activity, let's say if we were teaching a class and there was a rewind button and we could watch like something and you'd break it down. It's not the word playing is what we use. The word manipulate, there are certain words that we're using. And I think that's where we don't do it justice. I said selling, right? And your brain, and completely correctly, and I'm sure a good majority of the audience thought the exact same thing. This is for financial gain. Sleazy salesperson just out to make a buck. But it's true. Like we're hardwired right now. And a lot of that has to do with our emotions. A lot of that has to do with our environment, what we're seeing on TV. And I do not want to talk politics, but it's all over the place. It's very divisive and you don't, so it's very hard to speak plainly is not the right word, but it's hard to not have your verbiage dissected, and to, in this case, like I said, the buying a home is an emotional thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not a building, it's your home. If it's a residence, it's your office. It's things that are meaningful to you. And when things are meaningful to you, there's going to be an emotional piece to it.
On the financial piece, it's less emotional, which is part of, and it's so much more rational and logical. And so my analytical brain has always fared much better with that. It's not that I can't do the other side, Sarah. It's just this is my comfort. I'm more naturally in this lane than I am in the other lane. But we have a lot of real estate agents that we work with, that we partner with. And I think that what I really wanted to kind of talk about was to help them connect, to understand and to dig how to pull, again, not pull in a negative way, but how to extract, better word, some of the necessary emotions to help create a bridge to connect what that buyer is ultimately looking for. And what I mean by that is, all right, Sarah, you grew up, you had a two-parent household, you have two siblings, very, very normal in that way, very fortunate in that way, so it's kind of what you know. Now, let's say if someone grew up with, so I can tell you for myself, like I know that I moved around, I don't know, I probably lived in like 18 or 19 houses by the time I was 18 years old. I have a wonderful mom and like I have great parents and stuff like that, but I never had stability the way that I wanted it. So if you look at my life today, it's incredibly stable, right? I've owned my house for 10 years. Like I don't move around. I like my stability. And what I'm getting at is that someone needs to get that information. You need to dig out of it. Why are you buying, and this is where if I was an agent, Mary, why are you buying a house? Tell me what you want. And this is where I'm going to pull all that stuff. And then am I manipulating you if I'm bringing it back?
No. I because I think it's important to, when working with the clients I have, a lot of times they'll tell you initially, this is what I want, this is what I need, these are my struggles. And then things happen, they start to backtrack, second guess, and to keep them refocused, it's to remind them, well, you told me that you were really wanting, if we're using real estate, a house where you would feel safe that your kids were playing in the backyard, it was in a good school system, and, just reminding them and kind of rephrasing or reflecting back what they told you.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're making anything up. You're simply repeating what they've already told you and reminding them this is what you had said. Now, maybe that's changed, but just repeating it back and reminding them that this is why you hired me.
The word I heard that I liked out of that, can you guess what word she said that I liked?
No.
Okay. Reframing.
Oh, okay. I do like that word.
I like how because Reframing exactly what we're looking for is almost that's almost a substitute for manipulating in a way. We
Well,
want to
'cause I was-
reframe the question. We want to reframe the
reframe the
outcome.
direction and the goal. Because
Right.
I think here's the thing. If you were an agent and you extracted their real reason for wanting the house, why this house, what the features that they wanted. And at the end of the day, they ended up in the house that you were able to get them because you truly understood what their goals were. They're not going to finish their transaction with you, close, and go, God, I really feel like he manipulated me into getting this. They're going to say, he really understood me. He really understood what I wanted. He really solved the problems that we were having. He really got to the basics of what was important to us, and he made sure that those things were on the forefront and got those things for us, and we're so happy that we ended up going with him. And that's the win, because that's what they're going to tell everybody. And anybody that's making a huge purchase or doing really anything that's a big deal in their life, they're going to want to have that person that can get to the bottom of what they're doing, keep them on track, and really fight for those things that they were doing. And even if it means reframing or manipulating or extracting all of that stuff, like, you're doing it to solve the problem. So like on a very small level, every day you say like, yeah, Sarah, I'm puppeteering you. But the thing is that you know at the end of the day that I want to be successful. You know what my goals are. You know that where I want to be in, 5 years. You know me. And so to get all of these things out of me, you have to reframe what I'm trying to do constantly to me. And to others, it might be like, gosh, he's really got her running around and doing all this stuff. No, you're doing it because you know that that's what I want to go do, and that's where I want to be and I want to grow. So you're doing it to help me, and I'm aware of that. So in 10 years from now, where I end up, it's going to be, you helped me get there because you were pulling all of that information out of me and really getting to know what was important to me.
And in reframing, really just get someone to also view things slightly differently, right? From a different perspective, which is going to garner more information and more understanding of where the person's coming from. And when I was in graduate school and I had a supervisor, and they wanted us to practice ways of asking questions to clients. And it seemed very inauthentic to me. I'm like, I would never speak this way. And
Can you give us an example?
Well, it's like, I hear what you're saying, and, just your cliched scripts, and where I'm more off the cuff, I'm more natural. And my supervisor said, you know what, Mary, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. And if you're being honest and truthful and they know you care, you got them. And I don't mean you got them, but you got them. But you only get to that point by being curious and asking questions. And again, getting them to think of other possibilities, broadening I'm big on options.
Or going deeper into their answer. I think a lot of people, especially in sales, and they train you on this. When I worked for big corporations, this was part of sales training. A lot of us tend to ask questions that can easily be answered by 1 or 2 words. And it's getting to be comfortable asking open-ended questions where somebody has to dig a little bit more to answer and give you a full idea, a full scope of what they really want to say without having to just be, yeah, I guess that's fine. Or, and I think all of us ask more of the short answer questions more often, and then piece all of those together and kind of put, the story together in our own heads. And had we asked the question just a little bit differently and had that person give us more information and had to dig a little bit more, we could have gotten a whole different story, and it would have really kind of uncovered itself what we were all going for.
Yeah, the yes, no, short, that's good for, as I would say, screening people, right? But that then is a guide to saying, where do I want to dig deeper?
Yeah.
And how do I want to dig deeper?
Yeah.
To get really what it is they're needing, because they're probably not going to tell you out of the gates what they're really needing, because they probably don't know, or they're not clear on it.
I would say that, so the only thing where I would interject would be, I think face-to-face is totally different, and you can say it any which way you want, because I visually am observing your body, your movements, all of that. I can see it in your eyes, right? I can see it in your breathing, all of it. On a phone, I would say that scripting is more powerful. And I would say that in terms of someone who has multiple salespeople that work for him, you got to give them scripts, because Johnny is going to go off the cuff and not do it the right way. And Sally is going to do it over here. So I do believe scripts work very well. Having a script doesn't mean that like just like a movie, they're reading a script. Like they might have memorized it, but it's a script. You don't sit there and go, John went to, you don't read it like you're.
You want to make sure they're providing the content.
It feels authentic, but I'm big on the placement of words and how you use it. And to Sarah's point about the open-ended questions, just in order to bring the defenses down, like, you're trying to, depending on who you're calling. We don't really, our business model work for our company, we don't really have a lot of cold calling. It's very, very rare any of us are ever on the phone with someone who has no idea who we are. 99% of everything is referral. So I think that's a little bit easier. But, we were talking today, I was doing a presentation on how to ask for referrals. And, so break this down. Actually, great idea. Why don't you break down my scripting on this where we would ask for a referral. And so, of course, my ultimate goal is to have, Janine give me a referral and say, hey, Janine, it was absolutely amazing working with you. I can't thank you enough for trusting us. Will you do me a small favor? Because you say small, they all say yes. And then you go, if you run into someone that's looking to buy, sell, or refinance, can I count on you to give them my name and number? And again, I say, can I count on you? Because I'm not putting her on the spot. There's no wrong. The only possible answer is yes, because it didn't require her to come up with Bobby's name and name off the top of the head. Mm-hmm. So I forget who built that original script. It's not my own, so I'm not trying to take credit for it. But I've always really liked that because it also fits my personality. Mm-hmm. I'm very direct. But I'm not trying to intimidate you and saying, Mary, who do you know? Like, break out, here, I got my pen and paper here. Who do you know, Mary?
Right, that puts you on the spot. And what I like about the way you phrase that is you're also, by agreeing to it, the person is committing. And when somebody commits to helping, they're probably going to follow through more likely. Because I told him I would, that he could count on me to help it. So, and people really do love helping people, generally, not 100%.
For the most part.
But for the most part, But again, a lot of it's in the delivery, and you're right about the difference between phone and in person because only 7% of communication is based on the words we're using. Everything else is nonverbal. Mm-hmm. So when you're on a forum where
you okay with that?
No, I'm sure my nonverbal probably, because I'm in my head, so I probably do. I mean, but you're right. Like, have you ever seen the guy? There's a guy on Instagram who's always talking about how, watch when I go on stage, and he stands up on stage and he's like places his hands here, and it's like this power move he's trying to do. Like, I get it, but at the same token, like to me, my head goes to the brain. Like that's where I'm respecting someone based on what you're saying. Right. But not whether you're cross-armed or not.
Like. Right. And I think it also depends on what you're communicating. And the thing is, if you're communicating things that are more thoughts and ideas, that's not as emotional. It's easier to communicate through something like a phone or the written word. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking emotions or something that's more heated, a lot of miscommunication happens because you don't have the nonverbal, so you misinterpret what someone's saying. But yeah, if you're making a phone call and you're educating people on information, that's different. And you would want a script because there's certain things you want your client to understand.
Yeah.
Think about texting. Oh. Texting tone,
best way to miscommunicate.
It's the easiest. So here's the craziest part about that. It's the easiest way to communicate.
But it's the easiest way to miscommunicate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I tell my client.
It's the fastest people get into arguments or have these tiffs or are angry or are turned off by something or feel like somebody is mad at them all of a sudden or has an attitude. Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah,
you're speaking.
It's projection, right? Right. You're in a bad space, so you read this.
You read it the way.
Oh, wow, and you're on the defense, and they're like, "That's not what I meant," Yep. So I usually tell people, texting and that is fine when it's to communicate information
Quickly,
But
yeah.
if you're wanting to, if there's a disagreement or something that's going to be a little bit more heated, at least pick up the phone. Ideally, do it in person because, it's to try to clean up stuff once it already gets.
Let's dig more into the body language. Is there, okay, so where my brain went when we were talking body language, I was thinking, I'm like, all right, so I'm thinking like, do people's answers and their ability to communicate change? Like, let's say if I was laying down on a couch, as opposed to if I'm pacing and standing up in the office, or if I'm sitting down. Like, obviously, the obvious stuff is that if I cross my arms, that although it's comfortable for me, it's perceived as a defensive posture, right? I like to do the single leg cross. And these chairs, my mom always complains. I'm slouching. I'm like, it's the stupid chairs. These things are tough the way that they sit, right? But I would naturally like to sit back and like, I'm very comfortable like this. The more comfortable I am, the more you're going to get in here, right? Which is, ultimately what I'm trying to do. So is it better? Are there changes? Is there physiologically any kind of variation based on how we're standing, sitting, laying?
Well, I think, if you're in a laying down, relaxed position, that's different than when you're standing up and pacing. I'm someone who, when I'm pacing, I get the most work done because it helps my brain so I'm walking around and I'm thinking and I'm processing. Laying down, sometimes my brain goes off into areas that is not real productive. And you have to also understand the different behavioral styles and personalities of the people. You strike me as being a driver, someone who's very direct. So your body language and communication is different than somebody who is more of like what they call the supporter, who's softer and more into that taking care of and being gentle. And people will misinterpret someone like you as being, oh, he's
Cold.
Mean.
Right.
He doesn't like me. When you're just very direct and to the point. So people can say you do this, and I'm always crossing my hands and doing this, and that's just how I do things. So there are general rules about how you stand, and it differs if you're going to be a professional speaker versus having a laid-back conversation. But really, you also have to know the individual and know that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So we're always projecting our own biases and making assumptions that may be anything but true, which I find fascinating, but it can be scary, and particularly getting back to like the manipulation, people who use those things for nefarious reasons. It can be scary when you think about that.
I think if I were on stage, I like breaking it down, like so in sales, there's the moment that you can tell. So as an example in our world, if I can tell you what's about to happen with something else that you've already experienced, and I'm building credibility in my knowledge by saying, well, you probably did this, this, and this, and here's how it went. And then all of a sudden, the consumer comes back, goes, well, how did you know? I'm like, well, because, I've been around the block. I get it. I understand how it works. And so I think that if I was a public speaker, I would probably use that same concept to my advantage, and to basically break the mold, and to kind of say, hey, I can be like the guy on Instagram if you want, stand here and pretend to look all powerful. I can cross my arms. I could do all sorts of things to get you to think one way. But you know what I just did? I just broke all of those things by talking about it. And by talking about it, now I've caught your attention. And here's what I'd like to talk about today. Something like that. And so like I do a lot of presentations, and Sarah knows, like, I like to come out. So we have a purple cow.
You like to come out with the purple cow.
I did the purple cow in front of, 200 loan officers in Tampa. Sarah's done the purple cow. So we have have you ever
Several
heard?
times.
There's a book called the purple cow, and it's a marketing, and the idea is that it's a marketing book, and the short story is that in a sea of white cows, be the purple cow.
Right.
Okay, so stand out. And so in presentations, I like to do something very different. So Mary and I are in a B&I group. I think I was the first one to do like a Jeopardy game, or like literally my presentation style is, and you can see it very, like, start watching, you'll pay attention, how many people, the second there's a technology glitch, they are so thrown off, okay? Because, and I get that a lot of these people are tradespeople and they don't necessarily present, and they're not necessarily in sales. And so, but for me, like, that's my strength. I want things to get thrown off, because watch how calm, cool, and collected I am. You're going to feel extremely safe when I'm handling your largest purchase ever. You're saying, okay, I saw how he was able to, and literally in one of my presentations, I did that. I manipulated the technology to stop working, right? Mm-hmm. Just to show that
big manipulator.
I don't care that the technology works, it doesn't work. It's all in my head.
Right.
Like it's we can talk about anything. Like, it doesn't have to. I'm not reading. The what do you call it?
Well, because your thing is your experience. That's your strength, right? Your strength is your knowledge, your experience, your creativity, your problem solving.
Okay.
So while a lot of people that are licensed loan officers can do a loan, a lot of people can run companies, your superpower is you've been in the industry for a really long time. If you've ever been stuck on something that you didn't know, not only will you find the answer to that, but you'll find the answer to everything around it. So you'll never get stuck in that spot ever again. I've watched you do it.
Janine, there's a lot of compliments coming today. Did you have a chat with Sarah? Like, what's going on?
She did.
This is like, we've got like,
beautiful picture of you.
I think is this our 50th episode? I think I saw it's our 50th episode.
Oh my God.
Where's the champagne?
I assume that's
so for
what
the
it
next
was.
50, now you have to be really nice to me.
This was really only one, so I'll get you at 100.
Got it. Okay. No, but that is your strength. The strength is they always say, like, and while you love a fresh, clean loan with a fresh, clean buyer, you are a problem solver. So where if somebody gets stuck in a loan and they can't close it with whatever company, they know Emmanuel will be able to somehow figure it out, be creative, knows the guidelines, knows enough, has seen enough that that's your thing. That's your superpower. So a presentation that goes bad and you have to step in and improvise, you've got this. Being on a panel and the questions don't exactly go your way, or there's surprise questions, like, you can handle it because you're not, except for a couple, you're not new at this. And that is the beauty of your experience. It's not that it could be taught. You've put the years and the time and the effort in.
She's talking about, right?
But
she's talking about a panel that I was on, and I got asked a question. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was yet. And I'm experienced enough in the art of bullshitting that I was able to
You just diminished
eloquently.
everything that I said.
Yes.
No, but it's not. But it wasn't. I reframed.
Yeah, you did.
The question in order to answer something that I was able to answer correctly.
Well, I think too, when people see, particularly, when you're in positions of quote unquote authority or power, and certainly if you're a speaker, I always say whoever has the mic has the power.
Sure.
And again, it depends on who you're speaking to, but I think most people, when they see something happen and see how someone overcomes it, they like it because, wow, they're not perfect and they overcame it. Mm-hmm. And they can relate to, oh gosh, that reminds me that one time I did it. And it makes you more human. And, talking about, sales, there's the human, as we were talking, the aspect. If people can't see you as a human being who cares, I always, when I had to start marketing, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be a used car salesman. And it's like, no one's asking you to be a used car salesman. What you're selling is real and it's kind of you. But it's not. I had a very negative attitude towards salespeople before I then found myself having to do it, because the stereotype was, oh, they're going to try to sell me something I don't need.
Right.
And I've come to learn that there are people out there like that, but there are people out there who aren't going to do that. And you're going to end up buying from them because they put in the work to find what you really need and you're happy with it. And they'll come back to you.
Yep.
There's some great scripting I saw on that too that I really liked in order to deflect. And I want to say it's in are you familiar with Christopher Voss? Mm-mm. So Christopher Voss is a guy. He was an FBI hostage negotiator.
Oh, wow.
And he wrote a great book. I highly recommend it called Never Split the Difference. Mm-hmm. And he wrote another book with a guy named Steve.
He told me to read that book before I asked him for a raise.
Steve Schull or something like that. He read the next book he wrote was called Full Fee Agent, which is about real estate agents getting their full commissions and not negotiating. And he goes into it and he gives some examples, and it's really it's the psychology behind the words of getting. So like when we walk into a store, okay, we're walking into, now we could also break this down into men and women, but just in general, when we walk into a store, just think like a retail clothing store. The person comes up to you, the employee comes up to you, and right away, can I help you with something? And our natural inclination, even if I'm there specifically to get something, is to say no, right? We're ingrained to say no. It's defensive because that person is selling on their terms, not on our terms. And so in order to change that, or to, it was to, I can't, obviously it's unfortunate. I can't even think of the verbiage they use because it's bad to use an example where I don't even have the answer. But he literally took that line out and he reframed the verbiage on it in order to, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And it was, I forget what it was, but it was something like, hey, welcome to the store, please take a look around. If there's something you need, I'm here to help you. Maybe it wasn't that. That might be too simple, but it wasn't. It was less feeling of attacked, but more here whenever you're ready. Mm-hmm. And they talk about, like we were talking today about on the sales presentation or whatever you want to call it that we were doing, and I was talking about a book called. Have you read the book Start With No? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a really good one too. And as opposed to the traditional sales model where they've always said, get them to say yes. Okay, there's your first yes. Go get another yes. Ooh, go get another yes. And you keep getting yeses, but then you're yes to death, and then the person just says yes because they want you off the phone, or they want to be put out of that whatever feeling that they're feeling, so they agree, but they're not really in agreement.
Right. They want you off. And when people start doing that to me, I'm like, I know what you're doing. It's not going to work. So you may as well just stop.
Yeah. Do you want to go to dinner? She says no. I say, perfect. Now why not? No, but you figure.
No, right.
But you.
Yeah, well, again, and isn't that all kind of reframing? It's where you're really sending, the message is very similar, but the way you're delivering it is a way that doesn't put someone on defense. And in my line of work where, people are coming in and they're already defensive, you have to really figure out, we used to always say, how do you get in through the back door? And get them to tell you what you want to hear in a way that is non-threatening to them. And that's where you're going to really get, because trying to work through defenses and people who are not going to want to do things is...
Mary, I got an idea for you.
Oh, boy.
I don't know.
You want to make money, you got to do that for real estate agents. What is there, 2-3 million of them? You got to come up with talk tracks that allows them to get in through the back door to the clients, getting them to control the emotions of buyers and sellers.
And the back door, most people go through the front door.
No, right. It would be a great...
Back door she used. And by the way, luckily this has not gone in any sexual...
I was going to kick your foot. I almost kicked your foot. I was waiting for you to smirk.
I'm not the one. I kept it very businesslike.
No, but because you usually enter through the front door if you're a realtor, right? But no, we're going to get you to enter through the back door.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I mean, listen, there's a lot there. There's a lot of...
The book could have an agent and a person, pool in the backyard, and then the lock boxes on the back door.
Look at you. You're drawing the
We already have the cover done. We just got to work on the content.
Perfect.
Easy peasy.
I've always wanted to write a book.
I wrote a book.
You did? Tell me about that.
It's called Embracing Change.
It is.
and it's how to face your fears and start taking action. And it's a very easy read. My graduate professors would shudder if they read it.
Okay. So walk me through the process. So
Of what she teaches or to write a book?
No, the writing of the book. Is it, first of all, are you writing or are you like me talking and then you're the writer type thing? Is there someone else that's doing the writing and so like it's co-written?
Like a ghostwriter.
Is that what they actually call it? A ghostwriter?
No, I had an editor, but I did the writing, and then he came in and helped clean it up and rephrase things that would be more meaningful to an audience. I'm used to writing research and writing a book that somebody actually wants to read.
You had to put some emotion into it.
Right. Yeah. And telling a story, and that's so not my personality.
Just the bullet points and the facts.
Right. So that was helpful. But yeah, no,
I prefer to be on the couch. So I think I would want a ghostwriter.
So you would want somebody to record you telling your stories, your vision, your ideas, how you got from here to there, what this was like for you, and then they would put it to paper.
Ghostwriters, huh?
Wow. But it would be interesting to see your reaction to how somebody else puts your life
words into writing.
I could see that would be a very interesting meeting.
Because then there's a lack of control on your end.
Right. Yeah, that would be fun. Hey,
that would be a fun exercise in therapy for you.
I have tried therapy before.
Yeah, how'd it go?
I wasn't a fan.
Why? Well, let me ask this question. How long did you last with the same therapist? Because the first couple sessions, nobody likes those.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I wasn't a fan. I didn't really go anywhere. It wasn't
How many sessions did you go to? Do you remember?
It's like 2.
No, I'm trying to think. There was one woman I went and saw for a little bit.
Finding a good therapist is the toughest but most important part, obviously.
Well, the average length of or 2 sessions.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Because
I did more
people
than that,
don't.
but...
Yeah. It's not a quick fix, and a lot of it has to do with the dynamic between
you and the therapist,
right? And it has nothing to do with their good, bad, or
your willingness to be open,
right?
And to answer questions not with a couple words, but with some more meaning. Right. To be willing to, go there, as they say. I did therapy for years, and it literally changed my life. Here he comes. Ready?
Well, look at his body
language. You should
language.
start going more, Sarah. You need more change.
I can see the wheels going.
Well, no, because she was giving me a softball to kind of hit there, but I stayed away from it. No, I feel personally I do better introspectively. I like concepts. And I can internalize concepts. If you give, as an example, I remember listening to Tony Robbins' 6 CDs or whatever it is. And I remember really walking away with that one of the things that this is a mom issue that I had. The way that my mom would communicate to me was frustrating and I didn't like it. And so I remember, I don't know how long ago this is, but whenever there were CDs, so this is a while ago. And well, no, I mean it was.
It's
no,
yeah,
it was
really,
CDs, but so I don't know. I was probably in my 20s or early 30s or whatever it was, and but you were talking that, and I've learned to basically say, Sarah, when you do this, it makes me feel. Right? As opposed to saying, Sarah, you're doing it wrong. Right? One creates a defensive reaction. The other, and that's, I think, when I start, actually, the light bulb just went off. That's probably when I started really liking the concept of manipulating words in order to elicit what I wanted to elicit.
Because you're getting a better reaction when you use different words.
You get the end result you want. Isn't that the ultimate goal?
Well, and then that's the basis of effective communication is learning how to speak in a way that they're going to hear you, right, in a non-defensive way. And And
in my case, it wasn't about my mom hearing me. It's about the change your behavior.
Right. Well, here's the thing about behavior. You can't control other people, right?
No, you cannot.
You cannot control other people. You can but you can manipulate them. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a secret how to do that, right?
He needs no more
A relationship
relationship
is a dynamic, right? It's like, I always say, it's like a dance. And I always say, are you in sync? You know, because if two people are both dancing the waltz, it's cool. But if one wants to tango and one wants to waltz, what happens? They fall, they trip, they don't
Step
want
on each other's feet.
Right. So how do dancers get the other one to change? They change their behavior, right? So you can't control the other person. You can control your response, and by you changing your response to them or your approach to them, they have to then change their response to you because you've switched up the game.
Well, 100%. We were having that conversation earlier today. We was talking about how just like if you jump on the grenade, if you accept responsibility, this is obviously in business. I don't, not in dancing, but you accept the responsibility. It changes the entire, whether you're wrong, whether you're right or whether you're wrong doesn't matter.
Right.
The fact that I take the blame, I let you off the hook, just changes the entire dynamic.
Right.
Well, because the opposite is you're finger pointing and you're throwing the blame back.
But most people are like that.
Yes, and it creates not a good environment for business.
But I've always said, like, I have no problem with we have one of our employees that's here, and I forget what I had said something. We were out on a Friday and having a couple cocktails, and I made an underhanded joke. Is that the expression? Backhanded joke. Nah, it's not really backhand. Backhanded sounds like it was a under whatever. Anyways,
it was a joke that she took as a dig.
It was a joust that didn't get received well. She held it tight all over the weekend. Monday morning, had an issue with it, and I said to Barbara, that's not her real name. We want to protect the innocent here.
Right.
But so I said to Barbara, Barbara, you literally, all you had to say was, hey, I just don't find that funny. And I would have said in 2 seconds, I am so sorry. It's the last thing I wanted to do. But instead, now in this case, this is, in my opinion, it's a learning lesson for Barbara more than it is for me. Barbara needs to communicate their feelings up front, because I'm not the one who had a crappy weekend. You are. Right. The second I found out that your feelings were hurt, I went and solved it as best I could, which is by apologizing, because I wasn't trying to hurt anybody's feelings. So I feel like, as a relationship expert that I am, I feel like where people go wrong is they just don't have the balls to communicate.
Right. Or
the other person, or sometimes they don't feel comfortable communicating because they don't know where they stand with someone. They don't know what they're allowed to say.
You have to make yourself vulnerable, Sarah. You can't be so tough.
They also may feel
that's why people connect with me because it's my vulnerability, Sarah.
Yeah.
That's what people are attracted to me for.
But
they see my softness.
You're a driver. You're direct. And the downside is, right, you can come across as kind of like a bull, kind of a little brass, kind of too direct, right?
You've never heard those words?
I soften, no.
Never.
But I know you can soften it, but your tendency is to be very direct, to the point.
Yes.
And the good side of that is you're the type of person that someone can say, I didn't like the way you spoke to me. It hurt my feelings. And you're going to be like, oh, okay. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. Mm-hmm. Now we can solve it and we can move on.
Yes.
Which is why, I always tell the people, it's like, don't be afraid to talk to a direct person. They want you to be direct and tell you what's going on.
But I think a lot of people shy away from talking to a direct person because they don't know what the reaction is going to be. They also don't know in what space they're allowed to kind of say that. And I also think that there's an intimidation factor that comes with a lot of direct people, and people are like, I don't know if I want to go up against them. And even if it's not really truly going up against you, they may feel like that in their own head.
Well, and that's why when I work with families or couples, we look at what is your style of communicating and how, the direct person, you maybe need to soften it up a little bit and know that people are going to, and other people, well, you need to know that, their feelings aren't going to be hurt because they're not going to personalize what you say. So you can say what you will, and that, their response to you, a lot of people take, oh, he doesn't like me, or it's personal. It's like, no, that's just who he is.
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, the cookie cutter, well, if they say this, do this, because human behavior is much more complicated, and you kind of really have to know that person and know, but you only know that by getting to know them, which is developing a relationship, which is why in sales, I guess it's so very important.
But I feel I'm a chameleon. Now, maybe I'm not, but I feel like I have the ability, like when I'm speaking to Simple Sarah, I know to slow it down.
Simple Sarah, that was real. That was so very kind of you to say.
So we had a show and we were talking about this big financial platform that one of the guests had launched and all of this stuff. And they're going back and forth about the finances and the percentage and the interest and all this stuff. And I said, for the people that are listening that are not a loan officer, that don't live in the world of finance every single day and don't launch financial platforms, this is essentially what this tool does. And I spilled it out very simply. And the person who was on their show that's perfect. And that every single person will be able to understand that. And then Simple Sarah came about, and Emmanuel loves the Simple Sarah because it's just,
Nice.
Well, but no, and again, to say that you're a direct person is oversimplifying who you are, right?
Yes.
We all have different styles inside of us. So
have you ever done like a disc?
Oh, I'm a disc practitioner. I know I can
Let's
administer.
talk disc.
Yeah. Okay.
Every employee has to take a disc.
Oh
here.
yeah. No, I administer it. I've trained people and helped. I even use it with families. I know
Can you guess what I am?
Well, I always said you're a D.
So you think I'm a high D?
High D, and probably with C.
So, ironically, I was actually a somewhat low D to middle D.
But wait, you've had it.
I've done it twice.
Okay, but here's the thing. He knows how to
manipulate the findings.
Massage the
Yeah.
findings.
The second time around, it was perfect all across.
Oh, I know. No, I did the same thing. I'm like, I don't like these results. I'm going to go back and retake it so I come out.
Well, because that kind of
really
test
great.
is the reason I don't like the test is that it's really easy to analyze. You just say,
well, yeah.
if I answer this way, yes,
So
I'm
you're a C. You have
big C.
I was originally a high
Yeah.
S, high C.
high S, really?
Yes. I follow the rules.
Big systems guy.
Love
Real
systems.
big
Yeah.
systems guy.
Routine systems.
I will say
That's
this,
a
though.
C. Go ahead.
Your D has gone up since you've become a CEO.
I appreciate it.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, God.
I did that.
I have no. Is this a?
But yes. But
Well, no. It changes over time. Your style, depending on the situation.
I think that you've never had to be a leader.
Adaptability.
So before you were in a leadership role, you didn't have to be so direct because it was just you. You were a loan officer. You were an entrepreneur. It was.
I've always been a captain of all my teams and stuff like that. But I think the difference there is I didn't necessarily want to lead vocally as much as I did by example.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been very big on like just even when we were, at our prior company, for the most part, is much more. You kind of have to step up. And my business partner isn't as vocal or doesn't love the limelight as much. He can be vocal, but he's also direct too. And so part of the stage game had to be my role. And so you kind of just adjust to it and you do it. And, I assume it's like anything else. Like, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right, and you bring forth what you need to be successful. And again, I think now that's differently than going into a job where it's so opposite that there's no way you're going to ever be able to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, but we all can. Adaptability, right? That's how everybody, the species, the world, everything. If you don't adapt, you die.
Right.
I can adapt to S and C. It's just not my comfort.
So like, no, but here, we'll use Sarah. So Sarah's is a high D, high I,
Very.
low S, low C, right? And so her when she does, so from a business development standpoint, okay, great. You can give her a task. She'll run out the door and she starts it and she's going to make friends with whoever it is because she's a high I, but then she didn't think about what she was doing. Right. And I don't mean it in a like a knock, simply meaning that as
I'll
a
figure it
military
out.
as a military brat, like you don't want her leading the charge. A lot of people are dying.
Right.
Like
No,
she hasn't thought
maybe
it
not.
through. No,
Right.
I just mean that like you're
Well,
I make a lot of friends on the other side, and all of a sudden we're all kumbayaing.
yeah, we'll see how that works. Well, right, and again, but it's pulling towards your strengths, and that's why
natural
it's
strength.
But
Yeah.
that's why he and I
Right.
work well together.
right, because you need a little bit of all of that to run a successful business. I am extremely low I. And when I was told you're going to have to go out and talk to people, you got to get up with the mic and talk in front of people, I thought, you've got to be kidding. I want to sit and do my work. I want to read. I want to analyze. I want to help people. And I've learned how to bring that out when I have to, but there's a limit. At some point, I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to be around people. But again, what I like about the disc, because I used to do psych testing in the VA, and these were like neuropsych batteries, hours it took to administer. I was like, this is nothing. This is like how many pages? But what is great is its simplicity. But if you're a C, you're always overthinking things. Somebody else is going to take the test, and they're not going to think about, oh, let me retake it.
Because I want to have my answers come out better for what I want it to look like.
Yeah. Like I said, I did that because I'm like, I don't want to be portrayed that way. So I'm going to go in and intentionally answer in a different way. And then it's like, come on, Mary, this is,
there's a Keller Williams office just on the other side of the office here. And they, the broker, market center owner, I guess is what they're called, had me take one of their tests. And I don't remember the name of it. It's not hard as in manipulation-wise, extremely hard because I had no clue what the question was for or how it related to anything. In fact, I'd have to see the science behind the questions and how they arrived at it.
It's a false test because you couldn't manipulate it?
It's not.
Well, and they put in certain questions phrased differently to see, are you answering honestly? I mean,
or are you trying to manipulate the answers?
Manipulate.
Right.
So it's all right. There's the manipulation is just one piece of it, but I'm highly analytical. I can break something down, and if there's a test there and they're asking me like, I have an idea what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, which is why I don't love sitting down with therapists, because it's like we can get there faster, or maybe that's what it was. It's less direct. Or
no, right.
Well, no.
You
Think
are the
about it for a
best
second.
psychoanalyzer I've ever seen.
Well, because I can do it on my own too, but that's what I'm getting at. And that's why I actually like better when I was listening to an audiobook, or let's say if you're having a conversation about something else with Sarah, and I could take one thing and go, I can apply that to myself, and I go, boom, let me do it this way, and let me try that. I really like this, and you're right, this works, and but. Anyways, back to the Keller Williams test. The test was really weird, and it was all about finding the best job. And I think it's some sort of what they're trying to do is make sure that you're going to be successful in your. And of course, he comes back, and Andrew's the guy's name, and he calls me up. He's like, Emmanuel, you're going to laugh. He's like, your test came back like 99.8%. You should be a loan officer. Like, well, okay, so that works. But
that's funny.
Do you ever deal with, so last subject and then we'll wrap up, but anxiety. Mm-hmm. Anxiety is a big subject for anybody, really. And it doesn't matter what you do, but the anxiety of buying a home, of selling a home, of like we were talking about this morning, today on our sales call hesitation or
rejection.
Reluctance, I guess it's called, call reluctance. Just in general, all those things and how anxiety works. Have you worked in that field at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a common theme through all the work I've done has been working with people who are overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, a matter of degree. Some who needed medication, others where it was considered normal stress. But and I actually present a talk on the surprising benefits of stress. Because there are benefits to being stressed. And, if you're not a little bit stressed, you're not going to perform your best.
I do best under pressure. I always
Right.
did when there's a deadline.
Right. So the key is, back in the day, it was like, oh, okay, let's all be calm. Let's do the kumbaya. Let's float through life and nothing bothers me. That's BS. Things are going to get to you, right? The way is to reframe, and rather than thinking of, a lot of people, when they start to feel stressed, they think something's wrong. Something bad's about to happen, which is that fight or flight response, right? And you go into defensive mode, which is a horrible. It's great if the house is on fire and you need to get out. But if you're in an average situation or a normal situation,
And you don't know what you're fighting or flighting.
right? Well, and it becomes a restrictive mindset because you have two options: fight or run. If you can say, okay, is this truly a threatening situation, or can I view this as a challenge? It activates the area of the brain that is responsible for creativity and problem solving. And you experience what they call the broadening effect, where you're suddenly able to problem solve. You see the opportunities. So when you start to feel the stress, or you're in a situation, first of all, say, it's probably something that's meaningful to you, because we don't or shouldn't stress about things or get anxious about things that we don't care about, right? We stress about our jobs, our health, our family. Is this truly posing me a life or death situation? It's probably not. It may be a blow to your ego. It may not be what you like, but it's not a true life or death situation. And then ask yourself, can I view this as a challenge and an opportunity to make change or to grow? And I think it's got to work with sales, right? Because how many times do you have no's, right? How many you got to hear it, or bumps, versus saying, oh, let me just throw in the tile. It's like, no, what opportunity is presenting itself? What can I learn? And what can I do differently in the future? But most people just get stuck in the emotion and the fear. And again, fear is great when you're in danger, because it will motivate you. But being fear-based when you're not in that situation is when you start doing things impulsively.
Or it's crippling.
Yeah, it really is. And to the point that, some people can't leave, they can't function because they don't know what to do. So stress isn't, my new message is, stress isn't bad. And you call it stress, anxious, or, whatever word you use. But if you're doing something meaningful, you're going to feel stressed about it. But how do you use it? You're a big sports fan, right? Those guys are not relaxed before they go out on the field.
No, but there's that kind of performance anxiety, and then don't go there, Sarah.
That's anything.
But the performance anxiety of right before you go on something, and I would say, actually, to be honest with you, I remember from BNI, I remember my very first presentation, and even before I don't like, you can analyze whatever you think this is, but I don't like waiting. The waiting makes
You're
me
impatient.
He doesn't like to wait.
No, it's not about being impatient. It's about
He wants to get it over with.
No, so the problem is
impatient.
Yes, but it's not that. It's about the performance. So the longer I have to sit and wait, the more I have to think about the performance, and the more that I'm in my head saying, all right, we're going to make sure you say this, do that. So I do a lot of this. My leg taps a lot, and I remember, so my nurse practitioner is in our group as well, and she's like, you move your leg a lot. And I go, yeah, that's just until but I do it, I guess, after I go. But I just don't like sitting there and every time I have to present, I kind of get those little butterflies in my stomach. I don't like it.
It's called anxiety.
I know what it is. That's why we're talking about anxiety. But that's performance anxiety is what I call it. I don't know if it's the right term.
Well, and it's
presentation anxiety.
Yeah, it's because most people don't. But the whole thing is that when you feel your heart racing, know that what is your body doing?
My heart doesn't race.
Okay, but you're a butterfly.
I don't feel it in my heart. I feel it in my gut.
Okay, and people respond to stress differently. But know that when you feel those butterflies,
my gut goes do we have to go to the bathroom?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother story. But
I don't. It's not that. It's just, it's the nerves that are.
It's your nerves.
Because you're about to do something that's important and meaningful to you.
And you want it to be well received. You
Well,
want
yes,
the people.
that-
You
yeah,
want
that's
well,
the
you want to
perfectionist.
be you want to be
You
well,
want
of
to be
course you
well
wanna be-
received.
right.
You want the people to understand. You want the people to interpret it the way you want them to.
Right.
You want it to be meaningful, impactful. You want it to go off without any hitch. Even if you mass produce the electricity going out or whatever it is that you do with the technology, you want it to go off a certain way because you want everybody to feel a certain way about it, you, the presentation, the information when you're done.
You want
So
them to
that's-
walk away with something important, right?
So that's your angst
Yeah.
is the impression that you're going to leave, how it's going to go, making sure that you get everything in that is important to you, which is totally normal.
And it's a good thing, and not to be too eggheady, but and they've actually done research where when it's called the challenge response, when you're able to reframe it as an opportunity and a challenge versus a threat, you have similar responses to stress, but different hormones are released. And the hormones that are released during the challenge response are actually hormones that will improve and strengthen your heart.
That's where we need to get to.
It rather
All of
than
us.
No, right, rather
Because
than
the other one is
My tick is
cortisol.
on-
right, which is
And
what
so it just makes you like sweaty, heart, stomach,
right,
everything.
which is what leads to the chronic
bad part.
stress-related
Yes.
illnesses versus the hormones that help us. And again, it's a mindset. It's reframing how we're viewing a situation in a way that it's not a threat, it's a challenge, it's offering an opportunity, and you're still going to feel the feelings, but know that there's a reason behind it, and it's not because, oh my God, I'm going to mess up or I'm threatening and people aren't going to like me. Those are not good thoughts, but it's like, wow, I have an opportunity here
to really help them understand
and educate, and that's meaningful to you. So you want to do a good job.
I
so
had a
you should
panic
have
attack.
butterfly. Okay, wow, oh my
had
God,
a
okay,
full-
that's a whole nother issue. Panic attacks.
No, I had a panic attack. We were in New Mexico and riding this gondola. And I do not like heights, and I didn't want to go, and I succumbed to peer pressure for the last time in my life. And it's cold, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, she loves that it was miserable for me. It wasn't even there.
It's not that. It's just every other moment of every other day of your life. You're so in control. You're so cool.
Yeah,
you're so calm.
I don't know you real well, but I'm already having this amazing
So just
visual.
to be a fly in the gondola watching you lose your
Picture of
shit
you
over
with
this.
an
So we're they tell you like when you're not so you go into this you go hold on to the pole in the middle. So I'm holding on to the pole in the middle, and then you look down, and then and so this one of our branch managers at the time they weren't part of our group yet, and so we don't know each other. It's the first encounter, and we're going to some restaurant called 10-3 because it's at 10,300 elevation, and we're riding this gondola and it's so high and I'm not having fun. And I'd already like looked it up like a few weeks before, and I said, no big deal. It's a mountain, gondola up. Emmanuel walks down, drives down. There's a way down,
Rolls
right?
down, scoops
So
down.
this, obviously what goes up must come down, right? So we're in this thing, and Brandon is his name, and he did such a great job because he's like, so what's your favorite team again? It's like, where in Boston are you from? He did a really good job distracting me, trying but of course that. You're not dying. I'm not having a heart attack. Like nothing's actually wrong, but it's the overwhelming. Like I don't know what. No clue what the worst could happen. I guess maybe I passed out, but like I didn't, and I didn't have fun. We get to the top, and you think there's relief, but of course they give me this seat at the head of the table, which was really nice, and I'm staring at this amazing view, but the waiter tells me. The service road is closed. The food, the trash, everything goes back down the gondola. And I'm like, I got to take this stupid thing again. And I couldn't enjoy myself. So I couldn't eat. I had one drink. I'm like, get my food to go. I had to flip my seat around so I wasn't looking down at the thing because I couldn't stop thinking. All I could think about was like, I can't believe I have to take this thing down. I can't believe I said yes to coming to this stupid restaurant.
Right.
Like, I wanted to click my heels and be back in Delray, where the elevation is 0.
Yeah. Well, and again, when you're talking about fears like that, because we all have fears, and I also don't like heights. I get claustrophobic. And so there are just some things I'm not going to do. I will choose because I know that it doesn't matter what I tell myself, my body is
not
going to
be a
like
challenge.
So unless it's interfering with your ability to live your life,
Nope.
avoid those things, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not. But if it's something where, and once you have one good old fashioned panic attack, it's quite fun.
I had never had that before, and I was like, it was. It's very humbling.
But your heart rate increased. You were breathing.
I don't remember the heart rate increase per se. I was probably holding on pretty tight, and like on the way back down was a lot easier. For some reason, it felt a lot faster. I really don't like the guy too. The guy was like, we're halfway there. Only 7.5 minutes left, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, anyways.
That's funny. Well, yeah. So
that's my story, ladies and gentlemen. So now you've gotten to hear a little bit
I
of
appreciate you
panic attacks, and
we've made more headway in this than we did with he did in his two sessions in therapy.
Yeah, yeah. And now I have.
it was physical therapy, but whatever.
And I have so much. I have so much information now.
Yeah.
That I can.
Yeah. Now you can.
I you're a puppeteer. I'm a jokester. So I just like being kind of funny jabbing people. So
I do too. I was trying to behave for you, like, but I normally would jab.
No. So I've got some good stuff to.
You only make fun of the ones you like, though. So like, it's important that like I don't jab anybody who's going to take it seriously.
Yeah. No, my family, we always have a joke. It's like if we're all riding you and joking,
we really like you.
We love you. If we're being nice to you,
we do not
run.
like you. Yeah.
No, trust me, I get it. Mary, it's been absolutely amazing having you. If somebody would like to speak with you regarding any of your services, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
They can email me at Mary C as in cat, Owens.com, or call me at 561-414-7029. And I always do initial complimentary consultations because I want to make sure that I have services that, they'll benefit from and that the client really is ready to do the work, because it does require work. It's not a passive, like you come in and I'm going to fix you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Mary.
All right.
Okay, that's enough whining for one day. We are so happy that you could join us today on Stop Whining About Real Estate. So please, not only listen, but subscribe, follow us, download, share, and if you're feeling it, give us a 5-star review. Hey, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email stopwhining@choicemortgage.com. Thanks so much.